All right, we're going to continue to focus on battleground Delhi, and it's got very, very interesting because we've had multiple exit polls, post-poll surveys now predicting a sweep by the BJP. Today, we decode the X factors one by one with our panel of experts. But before we do that, I'm going to quickly dip in, take a look at what the exit polls say. A couple of more agencies, some of them projecting numbers for a very long time, have also come in, and the trend remains similar to what we saw yesterday, which is a clear edge to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Look at those figures there that you have on your television screens, viewers. In all, you see most of the seats projected by pollsters and agencies here clearly go in one direction, which is a win for the Bharatiya Janata Party. There is an anomaly of one or two pollsters who are giving an Aam Aadmi Party win and two who are hedging towards a hung house. But a majority of surveys that have come in after curtains came down on Delhi voting, as exit polls, post-poll surveys clearly seem to suggest that directionally it is the BJP coming to power in Delhi, the Aam Aadmi no longer with the Aam Aadmi Party. Once again, we at India Today have conducted no such survey. We are only collating, curating all the data that we are getting in from external agencies and pollsters and putting it together for you. We'll also dive in to the micro data of C voter, but that's coming in later. Let me quickly get in our panelists this evening. Rajdeep Sardesai, our consulting editor, joins us. Sanjay Kumar in the studio with me, co-director, Lokniti, CSDS and cephalogist. Yashwant Deshmukh, cephalogist, founder, director of C Voter. We're going to get into the C Voter numbers in just a short while. Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist and commentator. Rajdeep, quickly coming to you. Every survey, give alone one or two which seem to suggest an AAP win, one which seems to hedge on a hung house, all of them directionally are saying the same thing, that it's BJP in Delhi and Aam Aadmi Party is going to be swept out.
Preeti, even if we don't go into numbers, and numbers is hazardous to translate vote share into numbers, the fact is the trend is very clear. The Aam Aadmi Party is facing anti-incumbency, a party that won 67 out of 70 10 years ago, then wins 62 out of 70 5 years ago, now finds itself in a situation where its numbers are clearly coming down in terms of vote share. So one thing is very clear. There's anti-incumbency. And you can define anti-incumbency in various ways. You could define it as anger. You could define it as fatigue. The truth of the matter is, over the last 5 years in particular, and ever since the alleged Delhi liquor scam broke out, the Aam Aadmi Party has been encircled, gherawed by the Modi government at the center. And LG, who is in constant confrontation with the Aam Aadmi Party and vice versa, bureaucrats who are non-cooperative. The fact is that Arvind Kejriwal has spent 2 terms in prison. Some of his deputy chief minister spent more than a year in prison. Another minister, 2 years, all of which has created a situation where it appears, if these numbers are right, that a large number of Delhi voters seem to have tired of the Aam Aadmi's constant confrontation with the center and seem to be looking for change. If these numbers are right, it would suggest that there is an overwhelming mood for change. Does the Aam Aadmi Party have any hope? The only hope I can see for them is that some polls seem to still suggest that they are getting a substantial number of women votes. Now, it has been my experience in the last 10 years that whoever gets a majority women votes tends to win. However, this could be distinct in Delhi, where a strong section of the male voters seem to have completely moved to the BJP. And it's not entirely a surprise, Preeti, and that's my final point at the moment. Because remember, the BJP under Prime Minister Modi at the center swept Delhi in 2014, 19 and 24. And in each of the Lok Sabha polls got more than 50% of the vote. So maybe that paradox that we saw, voting for Modi at the center and Kejriwal in Delhi, may be changing. And that suggests to me that the BJP has, over the last few years, managed to crystallize this anti-incumbency and almost suggests that Delhi deserves the so-called double engine of 2 governments. But I would hold my horses before I predict any numbers, because numbers are notoriously fickle when it comes to smaller states like Delhi.
All right, Sanjay, I want to bring you in, Sanjay Kumar as well. What do you make of these numbers, Sanjay Kumar? Because at least we've seen in the recent elections when Delhi votes chappad faad ke, it'll give as much. And this time it seems it's practically turned the tables if you look at the numbers.
Yes, Preeti, if you look at all the estimates of exit poll, it seems that BJP is not only heading for a victory, it is heading for a very, very comfortable victory. The vote share estimates for BJP by different polls in the range of 49 to 44, 45%. If in almost a bipolar contest with Congress getting slight vote like 8 or 9% vote, if BJP manages to get 47, 48% vote, it is going to be a landslide victory for BJP.
Do you agree with these numbers, Sanjay?
I agree with the direction of the most of the exit poll. I think yes, BJP has an edge, but my own sense is that my own estimate is that 48-49% for vote for BJP is too high an estimation. My own estimate is roughly in the range of 43-44% votes for BJP and maybe 40% for Aam Aadmi Party.
That's very close then. That's a slender edge to the BJP.
Not slender edge, but a 3 or 4%.
So you're saying 44% for the BJP?
3 or 4% lead in the vote share should give them a very good majority. So that's my estimate. My own sense is the many polls which are indicating that 49 or 50% votes for BJP. In my opinion, it's too high an estimation, but it can happen. BJP has got more than 50% votes in the Lok Sabha election, not once, more than once. Maybe the preference of the voter earlier, which they used to vote for BJP in Lok Sabha and they used to shift to Aam Aadmi Party earlier, maybe they have decided not to go with Aam Aadmi Party this time and stick with BJP even in the assembly election.
Before I go across to Yashwant Deshmukh, I'll bring in Amitabh Tiwari, because Amitabh Tiwari, what clearly now, at least if you go by these numbers, the indication is very clear. The voters that Aam Aadmi Party used to borrow from the BJP during Lok Sabha for Vidhan Sabha are refusing to budge.
Yeah, and it also seems that the voters which it used to borrow from the Congress party also, because those were largely anti-BJP voters, some of them have also remained with the Congress, because I was just doing the vote share of polls because that's not evident everywhere. And if you see, 47% average BJP is getting, 42 Aam Aadmi Party, and Congress 8%. That's a decline of 12% for the Aam Aadmi Party. 4% of that is coming from damage by the Congress party because it is doubling to 8%, and 8% is the dent which the polls shows that the BJP is making. Now this 4% is largely going to be the minorities, which is Muslim Sikh community and a section of the Dalits. Now this 8% which the BJP is pulling from the Aam Aadmi Party in comparison to Vidhan Sabha elections 2020, that means that it is coming from a section of the middle class, which it is holding on to its core vote base, which it had got in 2024 Lok Sabha elections, and also a chunk of the female voters because of the non-implementation of the Mahila Samman Yojana. It was only a promise versus promise, and a promise not delivered in Punjab, and also a section of its core poor and lower socioeconomic class. It seems from these numbers, if these numbers hold true.
All right, I want to bring in Yashwant Deshmukh. Yashwant, you're going to dive into the micro data of C voter, but I want to ask you, why is it that C voter this time hasn't, leave alone given seat projection, but not even vote share?
No, I mean, seat we were very clear. I mean, for many, many years, I mean, me and Sanjay Bhai have been saying, and it was high time that we took a decision that as a policy that it should not be done the way it is being done. So we are very clear on that. Yes, the overall vote share, we have been hesitant in saying, I mean, we have given the male, female like that. If you take the average, you will know where is that, but it doesn't work that way. Election Commission hasn't yet declared the turnout number for male and female separately. And if the history of the recent elections, if you have to see many states, we have seen female turnout actually, surpassing even the male turnout. But if the turnout is the same and going by the gender division in this city, which has 54% male and 46% female, I would say that something like 46 and 43 kind of a split in favor of the BJP, 46% to the BJP.
And what I'm going to do is, Yashwant, hold on to that thought. What I'll do is, so we'll quickly dive into the micro data that C Voter has given out and released. And this is what C Voter is projecting when it comes down to gender. So let's play that data out. All right. So one of the X factors in this election, Rajdeep, that we've been speaking in depth about has been the woman vote. Which way will the women go? And C Voter projection, the micro data of C Voter in that is, it's very stark, Rajdeep. You flip it around, both ways works. For male, the BJP is 51.4% of men have voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party, and 34.3% women have voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, flip it around, 50.7% women have voted for the Aam Aadmi Party, and 34.4% men have voted for the Aam Aadmi Party. Congress is pretty much the same, both men and women, 6.5% men and 6.8% women. There's a huge divide, Rajdeep, where you look at least the C Voter data, where over 50% have voted, women have voted for the Aam Aadmi Party, and only 34% have voted, for the BJP. But if you turn it around, it looks exactly the same for men, because 51% men have voted for the BJP, and only 34.4% women have voted for the Aam Aadmi Party.
Preeti, I have been doing this game, if you want to call it that, of elections or looking closely, observing elections for over 3 decades. I have never seen this. If this actually turns out to be the case on Saturday, that the Aam Aadmi Party has a double-digit lead over the BJP when it comes to women voters. By contrast, the BJP has a overwhelming 15-16% vote among males. I have never seen such a gender divide. And this, in a sense, reveals perhaps the complexity of the Delhi elections, almost suggests that it's the male voters who are voting because of anger or fatigue or anti-incumbency, while women are standing by Arvind Kejriwal. So you could argue, for example, free bus rides for women or free power or free water. It's the women who seem to be more attracted by many of the promises made. The truth of the matter also is that a chunk of the woman voter could well, be comparing, say, a Ladki Bahin scheme in Maharashtra, where actually the government of the day was able to give 5 months of installments amounting to 7,500 to women. It became a game changer. Here, when the Chief Minister of Delhi tried to bring in the scheme to give 1,000 rupees per woman, it was blocked at the LG's office. Now, if women don't actually receive the benefit, why are they voting for Aam Aadmi Party? I'm not so sure. We'll have to see, does a middle-class woman think similarly to a woman from a low-income group or a woman living in a JJ cluster? Even within gender, I'm sure that you will see if there is a further breakup done of divergences that emerge. But I can tell you this, in all the years that I have covered elections, I haven't seen such a major difference between men and women. You could have a Mamta Banerjee getting 7-8% more among women and maybe equal among men. But to see such a big difference, it's astounding. It's almost as if there are 2 Delhis voting. One is the female Delhi and one is the male Delhi. I mean, I think Yashwant has really stuck his neck out by putting up that figure.
It's a sharp gender divide, and I'll bring in Yashwant Deshmukh on this. But Yashwant Deshmukh, even because you haven't given out the data in terms of voter percentage, but if I'm going to look at this and analyze this and correlate it with the population in Delhi, that still puts BJP about 2 or 3% ahead. Then
that's precisely what I said, Preeti, that
right.
Given that there are 54 versus 46 divide in terms of population of male female in Delhi, this translates into about 3% lead for BJP in the overall vote share, provided there is not an extraordinary turnout of female voters which is surpassing the male turnout, provided that. But yes, you are right in the right way. What Sanjay Bhai was saying, I also sense that there would be about 3% lead for the BJP in the conservative estimate. I think there is an interesting thing which I wanted to share with you, that the gap of male and female has been almost on the same line that the tracker has continued. But where it has turned it around is that in the tracker, the last, before the budget, the BJP was leading only 41 to 40 in the males. But once the budget was through, all of a sudden in the last 72 hours prior to the poll, the gap actually started increasing among the male voters by the day. So yes, Rajdeep is right. Even in my 28 years of professional polling, I have never seen this kind of a acute gender divide, number one. Nor I have seen, Preeti, a more acute, sharp turn in the last 72 hours. We talk about the turning around of voters, where we generally have seen 4 to 12 weeks, we say that late swing in the last 4 weeks.
You're saying the last 72 hours, the last 3 days turned it for the BJP. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Among the male middle class voter, it was the last 3 days. That's what I would say that, it's probably the sharpest of the U-turns or sharpest of the impact of a late swing that was induced. But yes, it is not that it is happening only in the last 3 days, because even before the last 3 days, the gap between the male and female was distinct. We had told that in the political stock exchange when we and Rahul Kaval were on the last tracker survey show, that BJP leads by a point in male, but trails by almost 12 points among the females. That's what the last tracker data that was showing.
And that gap is only widened here, but these are these figures are very interesting, Sanjay, because if you actually look at it, astounding, would you think?
No, I would agree with Rajdeep, like Rajdeep or like Yashwantji. We have also been doing polling, we have been analyzing the data. If you look at the preference of vote among female, for some party it is at the tune of say 6 to 7%, but male, even in that state, suppose the example which Rajdeep gave, look at West Bengal or look at Bihar, we will find women voting differently to the tune of 6 to 7, 8%. But if you look at the male vote, it's not as sharply divided as we are looking in, as the estimates of Yashwant Deshmukh's C voter survey indicates. So this is going to be very, very different election. This is, if this really happens, then it's going to be very, just borrowing Rajdeep's phrase. Delhi is election of two, these are two different elections, women voting in a different way and male voting in a different manner.
And we still don't know what is the percentage of male and women vote till now. Because once we get that divide, how much have women voted and how much have male voted?
We know that the proportion of women voter is less, say 3% less compared to men. But how many of them have turned out to vote? There's no idea. Nobody has
we don't know that yet. And it could
cut. One interesting piece of data, Preeti, which I want to state that because we did ask the voters who were voting for Aam Aadmi Party what was the reason for them to vote for AAP. And those who did not vote for Aam Aadmi, what was the reason that they went against AAP? So, among the voters who voted for AAP, I mean, obviously all the freebies were there, but conventional wisdom would have thought that, okay, it is only the Bijli and Pani. No, the number one was the Mohalla clinic and number two came in as the schools and other things as well, So, and only 3 out of the 100 AAP supporters actually said they voted because it's an anti-corruption party crusader.
Okay.
So that image has gone for a toss.
Fair point. And now I think that's also cut in deep with the middle class. But before I go into our next X factor, Amitabh Tiwari, to pull you in on this, and I'll take a figure from Yashwant's last survey where there was a sizable chunk which said, Yashwant, and correct me if I'm wrong, who were the fence sitters in this election, which they said, I think that they will decide, when the time comes. And on that, Amitabh, it does seem that the last 3-4 days post-budget has also swung the fence-sitters.
Well, see, that's what tangible benefits do. So an income tax break is impacting almost 90% of the population of the nation, because 90% of people who file income tax returns show income less than 12 lakhs. And everybody, whether they are earning 8 lakhs or 12 lakhs or 50 or above, are going to gain anywhere between 48,000 rupees per year to 1.2 lakh rupees per year. So it is impacting each and every class of voters. And this distinction is sharp because in the last year, if I recall correctly, as per Sanjay sir's CSDS survey, the lead amongst male for Aam Aadmi Party was 6%. and amongst females was 25%. Now this time it is 17% either ways. 17% BJP is leading amongst men and 17% Aam Aadmi Party is leading amongst females, which shows that of course they have exactly different needs, aspirations,
Right.
and issues. But the percentage of the women voter in Delhi is the lowest across India,
True.
only 46%. And to neutralize that impact, their turnout should be higher by 8% compared to men if they have to just neutralize that impact. So if the turnout is exactly similar to that of men, that's even in this case, we will have a 2% to 3% lead in favor
That's
of
what,
the
yeah, that's what, okay, that's what
on
even,
an
and even,
overall vote share basis.
which will translate on an overall vote share as well, and that's what Yashwant said. Okay, let's go now and quickly move to the second X factor. And Rajdeep, if these numbers hold, I would think that would become the X factor number one in this election, and that is the middle class consolidation. I just want to quickly dip in to the numbers that have been projected by C Voter when it comes down to the middle class consolidation. Where has the middle class voted? Of course, there is no one monolith when it comes down to the Delhi middle class, but we're breaking it down for our viewers. You can clearly see the lower income group there, less than 3,000, favouring the Aam Aadmi Party at 47.8%, where BJP gets 40.9% of that vote. Then 6 to 10,000, you can see the lower income groups, they're completely favouring the Aam Aadmi Party as expected. And then you see from 20,000 onwards, you see a complete flip when it comes down to the voters in the national capital who make over 20,000 and over, and more than 1 lakh over. And that's the big part, because that nearly more than doubles in terms of percentage for the Bharatiya Janata Party. 61.1% who earn more than 1 lakh are actually voting for the BJP, and 25.8% voting for the Aam Aadmi Party. Rajdeep, this cannot get more stark if you look at these figures.
Absolutely, Preeti. Just as there is a gender divide, there is a clear class divide emerging. I mean, the middle class, as you rightly said, is not a monolith. The higher incomes within the middle class are even more firmly with the BJP. And they have been with the BJP over a period of time. Remember, the BJP, even when it lost badly to the AAP in 2015 and 20, still had about 38% of the vote. And a large chunk of it was seemingly from the middle class groups, particularly the higher income middle class. But I think more than middle class, I'm going to call it aspirational class. There's an aspirational class which looks closely at the budget, which looks for benefits from the budget, which looks for greater savings, higher consumption. Is this the class that has moved away from the AAP? Possibly. Remember, this is the class which is also most exposed possibly to news media, which sees the kind of stories that have been put in the news media about alleged corruption of AAP, the extravagance of their leadership. These are the stories that have been pushed right down the line over the last couple of years. So I sense it's an aspirational middle class, apart from the traditional middle class voter of the BJP who switched. I think the one strength that the AAP had in 2015, certainly to some extent in 2020, is that the middle class, which was angry and fatigued by corruption, saw Arvind Kejriwal as a savior. The BJP has managed in some way to dent and target Arvind Kejriwal on the corruption issue. And I think that has to some extent swung a section of the middle class vote. Now, is that enough to counter the consolidation taking place among lower income groups who have clearly benefited from many of AAP's welfare schemes? That's again the big question. Who actually turned out to vote? I think this election, if the BJP is winning big, it's because their voters turned out in greater numbers. If the AAP stages a bit of a surprise in comparison to the exit polls on Saturday, it'll show that maybe lower income groups turned out in larger numbers than anticipated. So turnout becomes very important. Right. In most Indian cities, the more affluent you are, the less likely you are to vote. So we'll have to see whether the middle class areas, and certainly some of the exit polls seem to suggest that, did come and vote in disproportionately large numbers for the BJP this time in an assembly election.
I want to bring Yashwant back into this conversation. Yashwant, ultimately, if these numbers hold, it would be, the middle class is talked about so less in any election, and it will ultimately become the biggest X factor in this particular election for the Aam Aadmi Party. The demise of the Aam Aadmi Party would be written by the middle class that resurrected him in Delhi.
Of course, yes, and Rajdeep is absolutely right. It will come down to relative turnout numbers, Preeti, because which section has come out more. I mean, just like I mentioned, the reasons for voting up, when we asked people who were not voting for AAP, why are you voting against AAP? And their reasons are also kind of an eye-opener. I mean, number one, the biggest factor was Narendra Modi, about 20 out of 100, basically the budget and what has delivered. So that part is taken care of. Second one was about 18 out of 100, that Shishmal controversy and that entire image of Aam Aadmi Party, and that thing is coming down in that way. But after that, 4-5 reasons given by them were cumulatively, like for example, I mean, I'm just looking at the data right now, poor state of drinking water supply, basically the sewage and the road and that kind of thing, poor management of garbage. That's almost like every 10th voter who went against Aam Aadmi Party. So if you club that together, you realize you are looking at almost like 55 to 60% of the anti-AAP voters who have voted on the basic civic issues. So something tells me that, probably once they were in power in MCD, they could not blame the BJP anymore for the civic issues in Delhi. Going beyond the freebies, the fact remains that the Delhi under Sheila Dikshit, which was a world-class metropolitan, the infrastructure and everything crumbled down in the last 10 years, and that is something which became important. And yes, Aam Aadmi Party being no more the same party as they used to be, that was one of the clarion calls for the male voters.
Right.
But the bottom line, Rajdeep, still remains. I believe the sharp 72 hours turn is not less about the swing, but more about the better turnout of the middle class voters. People who sit at home but do not go out. I think budget was really, really critical in terms of enthusing them,
Right.
in basically providing a fodder to the network of the RSS workers to pull them out, that now you got what you wanted, why the hell are you sitting at home? I think that became a critical thing,
right.
for the turnout factor.
And it reflects there, Sanjay, because you see the income group which makes over 1 lakh, and you see such a huge shift, 25% and over 60% vis-a-vis for the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP. It seems, Sanjay, that this was the perfect political storm that the BJP brewed to, win back the middle class.
Preeti, is not surprising. If you look at the verdict of 2015 and 2020 also, Aam Aadmi Party has been very, very popular among the poor class and the lower classes. Not that Aam Aadmi Party did not get votes among the middle class and the upper class, but proportionately Aam Aadmi Party got more votes among the poor and the lower class. But I think even in this election, whatever vote Aam Aadmi Party is going to get, they are getting more votes, at least the exit poll estimates suggest, they are getting more votes among the lower class people, poor and the lower class people who are, whose income is less than 10,000 rupees. But I think the big game changer is going to be the middle class, which we are discussing right now. We have seen from Lok Sabha to the Vidhan Sabha elections, the middle class vote have swung from Lok Sabha to the to assembly election from BJP to Aam Aadmi Party. In this election, it doesn't seem to have happened, and one factor which we are all discussing may be the announcement made by the BJP government about the income tax slab. That has made some impact, and also the perception which got created because Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal were sitting on a very high pedestal. Honest party, honest chief minister. So all the allegation which has been levelled against Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal, actually has dented his image, and that is going to cost him very dearly in this election.
Amitabh Tiwari,
Can I just make a small?
Yeah.
I just want to it's very interesting, Preeti, that in 2015 and 2020, the BJP tried to project a face to take on AAP. Kiran Bedi in 2015 and Manoj Tiwari to some extent in 2020. This time they didn't do
Dr.
that.
Harshvardhan in 2013.
Yeah, and Harshvardhan earlier 2013. This time they stayed away completely from that, and most of the posters only had Prime Minister Modi. The moment they did that, they tried to sort of rekindle a certain affection that the Prime Minister has to a large extent among urban middle class voters. And if these numbers are right, I think the BJP strategy has worked. Clearly, Kejriwal versus who was not working for the BJP when it came to a straight leadership contest at the local level. So in some way, they made this election about Mr. Modi at the top, taking on Arvind Kejriwal in the perhaps sending out the message that we will give you special benefits, like the budget benefits, if the government is the same at the center and the state. And it could well have worked, especially among the middle classes.
You know, and that's why I want to bring in Amitabh, because Amitabh Tiwari, I think for the last couple of weeks, we've been speaking so much about the middle class, where the Delhi vote is concerned. And if these numbers hold, Amitabh Tiwari, then this will go down as a textbook case for the BJP to run a spectacular campaign, because they actually brewed the perfect political storm where it comes down to lure back the middle class. You started with Sheesh Mahal, where you dent the image of Arvind Kejriwal. There were already corruption charges against him, where it came down to the alleged liquor scam. And then you constantly built on local issues which were garbage, which was water, which was, the other local issues. Sewage was a huge problem in most of these unauthorized colonies where it's really the middle class that resides and not really the lower income groups. And then you had the budget.
Yeah, so essentially, we have been talking about the three M's, and middle class is part of that trilogy. So if you see, even in 2020, the middle class voted for the Aam Aadmi Party, 53-54% versus 39% for the BJP. This was one of the main weakness of the BJP, that not only the poor, even the middle class in the state assembly election were voting for the BJP. So a three-pronged strategy was developed, as you're saying. First is that you hit at the core philosophy of the Aam Aadmi Party, that Aam Aadmi Party is not a party with a difference, it's an Aam party, just like any other party, targeting the Kattar Imandar image of Kejriwal. Then you have the budget, because budget is a tangible benefit. Then you are luring people by tangible benefits, and see how BJP has sort of circumvented what the ECI clearly said in its presser, that they should not announce any scheme specifically for Delhi, but they announced the scheme for a national level, which has a significant impact in the Vidhan Sabha elections in Delhi. And the third is that, as Rajdeep sir is also saying, is that if you see Haryana and Maharashtra, PM Modi took a back seat. It was largely a seat-by-seat micro campaign which was run. But Delhi was a mixture of its old presidential style campaign.
True.
Pitching
the Prime Minister was on the ticket. You're right, Amitabh.
And at the same time, also raising the local issues of cleanliness, sewerage, issues, etc. on a seat-by-seat level. And the answer could be clear here if you see in the chart. People earning less than 2.4 lakh, the Aam Aadmi Party is leading by 10% plus. But people earning above 2.4 lakh is where the BJP starts to take lead. And if Yashwant sir has the numbers, my gut feeling is that in Delhi, the percentage of poor and lower socioeconomic class is actually lower, because the per capita income of Delhi is more than twice.
Well, I'll quote a figure, which was the CSDS figure. 66% is the middle class in Delhi. Yes. But once again, we can't take but we can't take it, Amitabh, as a monolithic figure. Because there is the lower income groups also who earn, and this 66% constitute people, and that's the strange part, 4 lakhs an annum to 30 lakhs an annum.
So 4 lakhs an annum also means that it is somewhere in the midpoint between 20 to 60,000 per month, correct? Here the dichotomy is that the number of middle class is actually high. It is not less than the number of poor people, which is generally observed in other states. So if you get a fillip amongst the middle class, which population-wise also is high, then you do tend to get a fillip. And that is what the BJP was lacking, because Aam Aadmi Party was taking the lead because of its romance with the Aam Aadmi Party, the original, a party with a fresh image, new perspective, anti-corruption, transparent funding, public participation in decision making. All of that has also evaporated over the last 10 years.
Okay, all right. So the third X factor that we've been discussing for very long. Let's bring that in context of the exit polls, which is, will the Aam Aadmi Party, Congress and the third player, AIMIM, split the Muslim vote? The Muslim vote in Delhi is about 12 to 14%. Has that been split in favor of the Bharatiya Janata Party? Let's take a look at the C voter survey. All right, so as per C voter data dive, if you look at the Muslim vote, 12.7% of that vote has actually gone to the BJP as per C voter. And the Aam Aadmi Party has consolidated 63.1% of that vote. 18.7% of that vote has gone to the Congress. There is no others in this, so we don't know how much the AIMIM has pulled. But Rajdeep, the Congress has just gone about 4-5% more than what it was in 2020. The figure of 12.7% polling for the BJP would be surprising to us. And on the other hand, the consolidation of 63.1%, about 10% or 12% less than what it was in 2020 for the Aam Aadmi
Two or
Party.
three very quick points, Preeti. One thing is very clear. The Congress has not really made an impact on the final verdict. You see, many of us thought if this is a very close race, and if the exit polls are right, it's not a close race. The Congress is 7 to 8% overall has not made a difference, nor has it really pulled enough votes in Muslim-dominated constituencies to actually make a major difference to the eventual winner, especially in constituencies where Muslims are 40% and more. It is also, number two, clear, therefore, that Muslims by and large have chosen the candidate whom they think is in the best position to defeat the BJP. Muslims still feel in places like Delhi, let's not forget the riots that took place in Delhi Northeast, where, remember, the Aam Aadmi Party's role also came under the scanner. Many Muslims said that they hadn't done enough to protect them. The truth of the matter is, Delhi in some areas has been polarized. The BJP will benefit from that polarization in Northeast Delhi. But in other parts, I think the Aam Aadmi Party has held its own among Muslims, largely because Muslims believe that, not out of any great affection for Mr. Kejriwal, but because they believe that the Aam Aadmi Party is in a better position to defeat the BJP than the Congress Party. But it also therefore shows that the Congress Party itself has been and also ran in this election. It's really, I don't see it, if it doesn't touch double digits, it means that the Congress's strategy has only partly worked. The Congress wants the Aam Aadmi Party to be defeated because it believes that's the only way it can regain space in Delhi. But on the other hand, if the Congress hoped for a revival in this one election, particularly among even minority groups, that revival doesn't seem to be coming there.
Amitabh, does the 12.7% figure voting for BJP shock you a little? You're on mute, Amitabh.
It does not, because if you recall the Maharashtra elections also as PSDS numbers, actually 22% people had voted for the Mahayuti. So what is happening is that also increasingly there is a realization amongst a section of the Muslims that perhaps it is better to be on the right side of the government. And also because of the schemes, the penetration of the central schemes is not just restricted to the Hindu community. In fact, some numbers as claimed by the BJP suggest that almost 35% of beneficiaries of schemes taken together belong or are from the Muslim community. So there is some increase we see, and it's not some, I would say compared to last time, it is almost 8 to 9% increase, because the Aam Aadmi Party had a lead of 80% vis-a-vis the BJP, and that has now to 50%. So there, we are seeing some sort of a movement amongst the Muslim community also across states towards the BJP. Slowly and steadily, it is able to make some dent there. And if you see across caste groups, the lead of the Aam Aadmi Party has either reduced or the
that's what I'm going to talk about. And Rajiv, I'll bring you in on this. Let's look at the SC figure. 12 seats which were reserved, swept by the Aam Aadmi Party in 2020. 22 seats in all is where the Dalit vote actually has a large play. And then if you look at this, the SC vote, as per the C voter survey, seems to have gone 37.9% to the Bharatiya Janata Party and 46.9% to the Aam Aadmi Party. The Aam Aadmi Party still in the lead, but has actually lost a sizable chunk. The Congress here also pulling away. The Congress had only 2 or 3% in 2020 and now stands at nearly 7% with the Dalit vote.
I think this is one of the other big X factors, and this is a major X factor. And again, 2 or 3 quick points on the Dalit vote. Number one, it is very clear that the BJP, you see, we treat the Dalit vote as some kind of a monolith. Now, within the Dalits, there are Valmikis, there are Jatavs, there are a variety of groups, and also remember their social status can vary, especially in a city. There is an aspirational Dalit middle class also emerging. Now, you've got to make that distinction, particularly in a state with large numbers of government employees, state government and central government employees. So I think the BJP has succeeded in weaning away a section of that Dalit middle class clearly. The lower income Dalit groups, by and large, still seem to stay with AAP. The Congress, again, has not made a substantial increase. They've not even gone into double digits among Dalits. So, in contrast to the Lok Sabha, where the Congress did make gains among minorities and Dalits, Dalits have largely stayed, it appears, with the Aam Aadmi Party because many of them are the real beneficiaries of the Aam Aadmi Party scheme. But the BJP has succeeded in ensuring that a section of the Dalits move towards this. There's been a lot of talk about cash being changing hands, about voters being wooed with money, other benefits in some of the Jhuggi Jhopdi clusters. Let's not minimize the role of money power and the manner in which the EC has unfortunately again stood silently by when serious allegations are made about money changing hands. But I think all of this means that SC vote, which the Aam Aadmi Party dominated 5 and 10 years ago, this time the BJP has made, if these numbers are right, a serious dent in it. And that again weakens the Aam Aadmi Party across the state of Delhi because Dalits are about 17% of the population.
Amitabh Tiwari, you wanted to speak about the caste groups. Go ahead.
Yes, so essentially, if you see amongst the SCs, the Aam Aadmi Party used to get, or in 2020, it got 66% plus votes. They had enjoyed a lead of 30% plus. Now it's down to just 10%. Here, the BJP clearly playing the strategy which they have employed successfully in UP, which is the Jatav versus non-Jatav. Then in Haryana, they brought the Valmikis on their side. In Maharashtra, it was the Mahars versus Matangs. So amongst the deprived sections of the SC community, the BJP has been able to make some headway. It seems it was successful here as well amongst the Valmiki Samaj. Then you see amongst the upper caste, the BJP used to enjoy only a 10% lead versus the AAP. Now it has gone up to almost 30%. So amongst and upper caste in Delhi is one of the highest across the country. After Himachal and Uttarakhand, it's around 40% population. So that also is giving it a lift in the overall vote share. Amongst the OBCs, it was almost balanced last time, but this time OBCs again historically or traditionally, nationally, it is a vote bank of the BJP where they again seem to be making some headway. And among minorities, the Aam Aadmi Party is losing the lead. Even among Sikhs, it seems to be.
It seems to be, yes. Okay. Just last few questions, Rajdeep, to bring you in on this. Ultimately, I think one big X factor that we speak of every time is where are the volunteers and the party cadre, boots on ground, who actually pull in their voters to the polling booth when it matters most. In this regard, Rajdeep, if the BJP had the RSS, then the Aam Aadmi Party also had its dedicated volunteers.
It did, but that's at the end of the day, that's why it's at least given some semblance of a fight. Please be clear. Had this been, the truth of the matter is the number of the volunteers or the cadres of the Aam Aadmi came from, remember, from the Congress. But in this election, about 7 or 8 of the Aam Aadmi Party candidates are former BJP people. So over the years, the Aam Aadmi Party also has had to reach out to other parties to sort of buffer its leadership. It doesn't have that many sort of stalwart leaders once you forget the top 2 or 3. So I think the Aam Aadmi Party, it's all very well to have a volunteer force, but is that volunteer force strong enough to take on the RSS BJP machine? You're talking about the most formidable election machine in post-independence India. Aam Aadmi Party won in 2015 and 20, I think, because there was a certain freshness. In 2025, if these numbers are right, some of the freshness is clearly gone. And there may be even fatigue and some element of disillusionment at one level among volunteers. Ki hame kya milega?
Right.
Every volunteer is not there out of a sense of idealism. Over time, the idealism disappears and you become pragmatic. And I think somewhere down the line, the BJP has been far more successful in holding together its cadres. I maintain money has a big role to play with it. Institutional power, whether it's the security forces, the police. Look, the Aam Aadmi Party was not on a level playing field in this election. For 2 years, they've had leaders who've been arrested and put under jail. They've had an LG who has been combative and refusing to allow many of the schemes to go through, bureaucrats who are non-cooperative. I mean, and then the BJP's machine. So all that, all put together, if I was an armed volunteer, I would over time feel an element of disillusionment, fatigue, or just a sense of hopelessness when I'm confronted on the other side with a mighty BJP machine. Remember, the BJP, Preeti, has not dominated Delhi politics at a local level for more than 3 decades, but it has a very solid vote bank in this city. This is not,
the last 4 elections, it's already had a vote bank of upwards of 30%, 32%.
Yeah, so no, I think the challenge for the BJP was very clear in this election, Preeti. If these numbers are right, we've got 50-55% of the vote in the Lok Sabha. We need to retain at least 47-48% of it. If we can and ensure that the same voter who voted for Mr. Modi for Prime Minister votes for the BJP at the state level, we are through.
All right, okay. And, final comments, Amitabh Tiwari, because if these numbers hold, then this will have implications not just on the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, it will have implications immediately in Punjab and will have massive repercussions as well for the party on a national level and its standing.
See, it will push back its national expansion plans for sure. It will have a tougher challenge in Punjab. But I would say the larger impact of this would be the unity of opposition. I see this as Kejriwal taking his case to the Mamatas and the Akhileshas of the world, that it is the Congress party which fought this campaign against him, and it is because of the Congress party is he losing.
But Amitabh, he could have done that if he had won this election. Mamata Banerjee, yes, go ahead.
Even if he loses, he's going to crave, and I see that some of the regional forces in the India bloc might not like to remain with the Congress party, and there could be a regional bloc or a third front of sorts being formed, whether he wins or
the murmurs of that have already begun with the Samajwadi Party. Rajdeep, you want to come in 20 seconds, Rajdeep?
In fact, I said this in my column a couple of weeks ago, and it's in my book also, The Election That Surprised India, that for the India alliance to hold, it's going to need more than just anti-Modism. And in the 8 months since the Lok Sabha elections, it's clear that they are at daggers drawn. You've already seen the Samajwadi Party leaders like Ram Gopal Yadav now openly saying that the Congress is the Kamzor Kadi. So I think Amitabh is spot on that if the Aam Aadmi Party loses, they're going to use their loss, put it on the Congress, even though I don't think with 7% the Congress would have made the real difference.
Exactly.
The truth of the matter is regional parties are going to say, let's band together. For now, the Congress Party can do what it wants. We are going to do what we want.
You're right.
And that's the way politics will take place over the next couple of years.
Will use this
End of the India Alliance.
If these numbers hold. All right, okay.
End of the India Alliance.
All right, Rajdeep's making predictions. Okay. All right. With that, it's a quick wrap. We've completely run out of time. Rather, we've overshot it. We'll meet you on the 8th of February. If these numbers hold, then the Aam Aadmi is no longer with the Aam Aadmi Party. If they don't, then we'll talk about it then. Thank you for watching.